Hello, Jim Johnson, aka Sulfurblade, and I'm back here with another Crusader Kings 2 video, where we're going to attempt to demonstrate something useful to be learned in our ongoing masterclass for Crusader Kings 2. Now, what are we going to start off with in this particular video? Well, we just got out of war, and we're sitting here burning up time on the theology focus. I don't want to actually burn up a lot of time on the theology focus. It's not necessarily a focus I want to use long term. It's a focus that I want to get a few things done and move on. The war that we were caught in when we assumed this character has burnt off a little bit of that time. So what we're going to do right off the bat here is step one, we're going to ensure that we have a decent designated regent, because we need someone alright to run the show while I am away doing important things. And I'm not exactly impressed with any of my characters here for that purpose. In fact, I might actually go shopping for a designated regent, which is not something I've really ever done much of in the past, but we will see what's out there. How about my religion group, any culture, gender, diplomatic range, yes. I mean, he's who I would love to give it to, but I'm not exactly going to give my rival any more power to kill me with than I need to. Marshal of the Lombard Band, huh? You actually wouldn't be too bad. He doesn't want to come to court, though. Can I marry him to court? I don't think I have anyone of the necessary stature to get him here. Lowborn, so that can't be. Way too old. They're not going to accept this marriage. Nope. Hmm. She's not a relative. Is she eligible to be designated regent? I mean, even if she's not eligible to be designated regent, she's definitely marriage material for somebody. Alright, we're gonna send her a gift. Get her on her way. I am making kind of a... So, she is a talented schemer. And she's also foreign. She's Pictish. She already has a low opinion of me as is. However, I think she'll warm up to me. Or not. She is the designated regent of our country. Who's available to marry? Oh, Uncle Henry. That might not be a horrible idea. Actually, we're gonna do that. You might be wondering, well, why are you doing that? Because Henry has reason to kill you, which is true. He does. However, if he killed me, I wouldn't actually be too upset about it, because he's not a bad character. He's brave, he's just. He's slightly worse than me in diplomacy and learning. Which reminds me, he's not a... He is not a hermetic. So, people that you're gonna make your heir, you should always be sure that you make them an apprentice. That way, you can verify that they're going to be a hermetic, even if they don't have the learning skill to be a hermetic, before they become you. So now, while I'm a straight up better character than Henry is, Henry's wife is straight up a better wife than my wife is. So things might even out in the transfer process if it happens. Now that I have a skillful designated regent, it is, well, I'm going to acquire ingredients, but first we're going to go on our vacation. Vacations are always important in this game. Get your vacations done early in your lifetime. Alright, we're gonna head off to Rome. And appoint counselor. Sure. Honestly, why is Burgundy still my Liege. Interesting. And I'm off on the pilgrimage. You lay awake at night reflecting on your pilgrimage. It's an inner journey as well as a physical one. But can you be sure of which destination it will take you? And do you even want to have that certainty? %, chance of cynical, which is horrible, and 50% chance of nothing, 10% of depressed, 20% of zealous that I already have, and 20% of poet, which would be fine. The mind wanders where it will, and we got poet out of it. That's fine with me. A thousand roads lead men forever to Rome. As you walk around the holy ground, you ponder the secrets of the essence of God. The teachings of the Holy Church have never felt more relevant to you. Now, I imagine the knowledge contained in the scriptures stored here. The way to heaven is through study. Gain the scholarship trait, which I don't actually want the scholarship trait. I mean, it does give me 3 learning, but I'd rather be a mystic. However, trying to become a mystic on my very first hermetic is kind of pointless because I don't think I'm going to be building any wonders in this person's lifetime anyway. I'm too busy actually building up my demise. So being a scholar, I'd say, is actually fine. And we've gained the trait Pilgrim, 30 piety, and on our way back home we are. So, that's pilgrimage. That is what I like to do at the beginning of every character. Every young character, that is. So some characters you end up with just are not, they don't have the lifespan to fit in all of the things you want to do with Way of Life. But when you get a decent young character, I have a regular routine that I like to put them through. And that is, I like to start their early lifetime off with a pilgrimage. It tends to buff general opinions of people early in your career, if you will, when you need those buffs the most. As you obviously become a ruler for longer in your lifespan and you gain more prestige and piety, you don't need those buffs and they wear off. So it's like a natural progression of being a well-liked and well-received ruler. Also, pilgrimages have a tendency of giving you really good traits. You tend to get the charitable trait a lot when going on pilgrimage. You tend to get any of the green traits like charitable, humble. You tend to get a lot. So all in all, it's a good thing to do early in a character's career to get them off on a good start in their lifespan. So now we can choose a new focus already. Oh yeah, well we're gonna do that. So part of me wants to go straight over to business because I want to get to debase the mint as much as possible to get as much money. However, comma, a long lifespan of business focus, well, leads to lots of opportunity to get the stress trait. And while the stress trait typically isn't a problem as a hermetic, I am a low-ranking hermetic that can't deal with it yet. So in this particular instance, and what do I mean by a hermetic being able to deal with the stress trait? Well, you can brew potions of potions that make the stress trait go away. That's probably the largest benefit for being a hermetic in the first place. I think hermetic is the most powerful of the societies. It's by far my favorite. And so I'm going to demonstrate to you as part of this masterclass the power of being a hermetic in this playthrough. So in this particular masterclass, we're kind of going over the concepts of creating a regiment for your character. And by regiment, I mean a training focus. So starting off an early lifespan with theology, or you could even start off with carousing, because you can get carousing done relatively quickly. It doesn't take a lot of things to possibly get Game Master, which is a very strong trait. It doesn't take a lot of time to get some pretty powerful things out of carousing, and I'm actually thinking about doing that now, just to demonstrate. If I could go theology, carousing, business, war, hunting on this character, that would be a pretty good demonstration. How old am I? 21? Yeah, let's go for it. We're gonna go carousing next. Alright, now who to carouse with? Let's, you kind of want to limit who you carouse with to a certain extent to the people that you really want to have the opportunity to befriend. King is certainly always a decent possibility. However, this particular king is a bit on the older side. It may be actually wise to buddy up to him, but I can't invite him to carousing because he's not a base. Alright. Well, our direct liege is always a possibility. Who else is good to have really good relations with? Your wife. God, this wife is terrible. Okay, my wife, my liege, and how old is my spy master? Being friends with your spy master is never bad. Alright, I'm going to start with those three. If they all say yes, that's a rather small and intimate gathering. That'll do just fine. They may not all say yes. They may all tell me to bugger off. Okay, wife's in on it. My liege says screw off. And my spy master says screw off. Well, that's sad. Alright. My marshal's on the elderly side. Alright, we'll invite the steward and the chancellor. Alright, chancellor accepted. Steward told me to piss off. Can I invite the Pope? No. So he's already got a pretty low opinion of me, so it's strongly likely he's gonna say no. However, he is lustful, but he's slothful. It's unlikely he's gonna say yes. We're gonna give it a stab in the dark anyway, so we could get our priests a little less angry with us. That would be all for the better. And he's going for it. Okay, so 3 is enough. You don't have to go hog wild. In fact, usually the smaller, the more intimate the setting, the more likely for better things to happen. But there's always the chance that a brawl will break out and I'm going to actually anchor one of these people. My wife's pregnant, good. But we're not going to think negative, because good things are going to happen. Alright, we accept this challenge. Let's go acquire some ingredients, please. We're going to head out to the forest to hunt the most prized animal parts. That is my preferred method of gathering things for... Whoa. Okay. Well, the more parts, the better. We'll take them times 2. Our combined hunting experience should make this easy. I could scarcely believe it. I'm already lustful, ain't I? Yeah. Well, I'm gonna lose piety just to keep my wife happy. Happy wives tend to be a little more fertile, even though she is quite fertile as it is. And the carousing has started. Now, what's the trick with carousing focus? Well, you need to carouse 3 times. Several days of feasting together, the attraction is growing, and I know we're thinking the same thing here. Let's do it. ceded to my advances, and we spent the rest of the night together enjoying each other. Hope I'm not too drunk to remember this later. So, that is one of the best outcomes I could have hoped for. I literally used carousing focus to fall in love with my wife. Or at least to make her my lover. Should be showing her, but it's not. Alright, so we now have lots of wonderful parts. Basically, that's 9 ingredients, which really, if you divide that by 2, you get, 4 possible potions with 1 remaining. So that's 4 times I can get rid of stressed in the near future. Once I am high enough rank in the society, which once I get up to initiate, I'll be able to start brewing the potions of Edemia. It's not too hard to get to initiate, so that's a great thing. Right, let's dispatch some maids. A son was born to Henry and Dorilla. So that's my heirs. How about... Edward. Alright, I need to go hunting right now. Proofs of bravery. Has declared the Burgundian claim on Normandy War, and I don't want that to work. That is not a fight. I want him to succeed. I've lost my marshal. And I probably don't have any... well, I do. Again, risking putting my rival in a place in the court. Just not something I'm keen to do. So what else do we have out there? Not going to have a lot of options, are we? Our rival is already popping up as the best person for the job. He's only a commander. He's young. I think this might be worth the effort I'm about to go through. So, here is another masterclass type trick that you can learn in this particular episode. Normally, if you looked at the character finder and you see a character like, for instance, this guy with 30 martial that you would like to have as your marshal, he won't accept the invitation to court. If you bribe him, he still won't accept the invitation to court. So how else do you get him to court? Well, one way is if you had someone of your dynasty, you could easily marry him to your court. However, we don't. We have young girls in our dynasty that would take forever to get this guy to our court. That's not a path that we can utilize. We need something to get him here now. Because he is not actually on the court of his liege, he is not the marshal of Count Richard. He's just a commander. We can do this particular trick. And that is, I'm going to buy a favor. This is a little more expensive than the 15 gold bribe that you would normally use. But in this instance, I think it's okay. I like to have a good marshal. So I'm sending him the bribe. Now that he's received my bribe, I'm going to invite him to court. I'm going to use the favor to force him to accept. And now, he's on his way. Alright, and Engelbert the Strong is now here at our court. And we're going to assign him as our new marshal. He's even a loyalist. Look at that. Let's get him to training troops. Excellent. So, in an attempt to keep these masterclass lessons as short and compact and condensed as we can, I'm going to wrap this episode up here, but before we wrap it up, we're going to go over a few things that I think are, well, takeaways from this particular episode. In this episode, we went over kind of using the focuses. Obviously, it's going to be hard to get through all of the focuses in a single video because a lifetime of a character does take some time. But we started off with a pilgrimage, and we got some okay things that happened from this pilgrimage. We got Poet, we got Pilgrim, and we got Scholar, which isn't, anytime you can get positive modifiers to your character, it's certainly helpful. You're always going to get the Pilgrim modifier, because that's just a result of going on a pilgrimage. But you can often get, like I say, charitable, humble, the green moral virtue ones that I really like to get, that my character doesn't have any of yet. But we're going to work on that as we go through our regiment of different focuses. So we've done one carousing so far. We need to do carousing 2 more times before we complete what would you call it? So carousing has, you get pilgrimage, for instance, you get pilgrim from going on a pilgrimage with the theology focus. You can get a special trait that kind of signifies that you're a master of carousing once you've caroused 3 times. Carousing 3 times tends to take a little bit less time than you have to change the focus. But it's close enough that you're not stuck in carousing forever. You can generally do it, I think, within about 3 years. And oftentimes you can get Game Master out of it, which is probably the trait I like to get the most, which is a good one for commanding troops. I don't tend to command troops with my character. As you can see, he's not set to leave armies, but every now and then there is a battle that's going to be of significant importance to do so. Also, when you're on war focus, your talents, military-wise, you can spread those on to your commanders. So it's good to have good talents, if not just to teach your commanders those good talents. So that's kind of step one of this particular episode, is utilizing the way of life focuses to maximize your character's growth in his lifespan. So for me, I like to go theology, carousing, business focus, war, and then finally finish up with hunting. Hunting extends the character's lifespan as much as possible, because it's the best way to maximize health. The combination of hunting itself and the dog that you get from hunting gives you the most health benefits. So that is that portion of this masterclass. We've summarized utilizing the focuses for maximum benefit over a lifespan to grow your character as much as possible and turn him into a cool, studly character by the time he passes on. Next, we just showed a way of utilizing the character finder once again to bring in the best guy for a job. Now, yeah, we spent a little bit of money to do so, but we were able to do that because he was not on his liege's council. If he's a council member, you can't use a favor to invite him to court. You can also, as I said, you can do marriages with noble women that you marry matrilineally to kind of pull some of these guys over. However, sometimes his liege won't accept the marriage because his skills are too high, and the dynasty female you're using is not high enough in the line of succession to tempt him enough to do it in the first place. So it really depends on who the female member of your dynasty is and how much the liege values that person's skills. I'm really amazed that this guy wasn't the marshal of where he was, having 30 martial skill, but, you know, it's a pleasant surprise for me. And for you, because you got to learn how to utilize the favor system to do something useful. Ultimately, favors in this game tend to not be very useful, and there's a few situations where they do come in fairly handy. This is one of them that can be used to a decent extent, is bringing in a really decent counselor. Now, some of you might actually be wondering, why do you spend so much effort into your council in general? Well, these counselors are more important than maybe a lot of new players or players in general tend to understand. So if we look at our state marshal, which, did we just assign? There we go. Alright. If we look at our state marshal, you will see that it's getting benefits from the counselor himself, as well as myself and my spouse. You can see that the spouse's benefit is only +2. And that's because her skill in martial must either be 4 or 5. because the spouse gives half of their skill towards the state martial tab. So half of the wife's skill is indeed 5. So 4 or 5 is going to both give 2 points because it always rounds down. If she was at 6, she would give 3. If she was at 7, she'd give 3. If she was at 8, she'd give 4. If she was at 9, she would give 4. If she was at 10, she'd give 5. So on and so forth. Because she's a terrible character, well, she's not really helping our martial score out that much. But what does 54 state martial score translate into? As we noticed, the system just updated this happening. So what we're going to see when we look over at the character himself and we hover over our levies is that there's a disparity between our actual Jaames levies right now and the maximum Jaames levies that we can have. So by bringing in that martial, we basically created 55, 65, 75, close to 85 more troops, 83 specifically, that is now at our disposal because of the marshal we brought in. And that's going to go up because at this moment in time, he has not actually triggered his job. And that job is, let's look here. He's trying to increase the levy reinforcement rate and the levy size of the county. So, because the old counselor died and the new counselor just arrived, he hasn't actually triggered the event that causes this to take effect. So soon enough, we're going to even have more forces than 728. We'll be batting, actually, probably, I would venture in the neighborhood of 1,000 to 1,100 troops, which is fine with me. It's just going to make it easier to kind of do our conquests here of our duchy. But we do currently have a problem with that duchy situation, and that's that our liege, the Duke of Burgundy, is attempting to retake the Duchy of Normandy, which is only going to make it harder in the future to break away from him. He's got an old wife. Anyway, again, trying to condense these episodes into as short term as possible. We just did the recap on the focuses. We did the recap on utilizing the character ability, bribing, bringing a guy in who's not on someone's council, using a favor. Was there anything else in this episode? I don't think there was anything else remarkable in this episode, but those two things are enough. Those two, the utilizing your focuses appropriately to maximize your character, and bringing in a good specialist on your council, I think are two very important topics that players should generally know in general. Anyway, I'm James Johnson, aka Sulfurblade. This has been another episode of my masterclass. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If so, please leave a like and subscribe. And until the next time, peace.